Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished professional from Austin, Texas, USA, Sam Horn. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ash. I've been looking forward to sharing some ideas with your listeners and viewers.
Thank you. Sam is the founder and CEO of the Intrigue Agency. She's a coach and she's an author. And all of you know I'm very partial to authors. So, Sam, let me start by asking you, tell me a little bit about your own journey and what led you to forming the Intrigue Agency.
Thank you so much for asking that, Ash. I'll always remember I helped start and run the Maui Writers Conference.
Okay.
And what CAN is to the film industry, we were to the publishing industry, because you could jump the chain of command and you could pitch your novel or screenplay to top decision makers.
Right.
And I will always remember after our first round of pitches, a woman came out with tears in her eyes. And I went over, I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I just saw my dream go down the drain."
Okay.
And I talked with one of our top editors, and he said, "We've seen thousands of pitches. We make up our mind in 60 seconds whether something is commercially viable." And I watched these pitches and I could predict, Ash, who was getting a deal without hearing a word being said based on one thing. Guess what it was? The decision maker's eyebrows.
Wow.
Because see, this is the brand called You. So if we're describing our idea, our startup, our book, our cause, and people's eyebrows are crunched up, it means they're confused, right?
Yes.
And confused people don't say yes.
Correct.
So what
Well
we
said.
want is to get people's eyebrows up, and that's what I teach how people to do, so that when we finish describing what we care about, they want to know more. That means we got what we care about in their mental door.
Wow, what an amazing thought. I'm now going to be looking at people's eyebrows more now. So, Sam, now tell me a little bit about the Intrigue Agency. I love the name. Tell me about this and what is the work you're doing here?
Thanks for asking, Ash. Is that I hope people have paper and pen, unless they're driving or unless they're somewhere, because that's one of the lessons from the Maui Writers Conference. Ink it when you think it. And I know your listeners are smart and they want to learn. And if we write it down, it's ours forever, right?
Yeah.
So people ask how my brain works. I juxtapose everything. I think it is the quickest way to make complex ideas crystal clear. So if they have paper in front of them, put a vertical line down the center, and on the left, please put infobesity. And infobesity is wah, 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 wah. And intrigue is on the right.
Okay.
We want to transform infobesity into intrigue. We want to be so clear, so crisp, so compelling that the busiest people choose to give us their attention.
Wow. Fabulous. And what goes into creating communications that add value for all involved?
Okay. So let's put resistance over on the left. Let's put receptivity over on the right, or even resentment over on the left, and respect over on the right. So when we communicate with people, whether it's with our customers or coworkers, or whether it's we're pitching for funding, how can we switch infobesity to intrigue and resentment and resistance into receptivity and rapport? Would you like to know a quick way to do that?
I'd love to, yeah.
Oh, okay. Stop telling people what we do. Stop explaining. So over on the left, put tell or explain. Because haven't we been taught to start communications with telling people what we're going to tell them, and then telling them, and then telling them what we told them? Ash, that's a prescription for being a bore, snore, or chore.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely.
So we're going to start. Do we have time for like a 60-second story?
Yes, we do, of course. The more stories you are, the better the listener interest always is.
Oh boy, do I've got stories for you, Ash. Okay. I was the pitch coach for Springboard Enterprises, which has helped entrepreneurs generate 26 billion in funding valuation. One of my clients came to me and she said, I've got bad news and I've got good news. I said, well, let's hear the good news first.
Okay.
She said, I'm pitching to a room full of investors in New York. I said, that's great news. I said, what's the bad news? She said, I'm going at 2:00 in the afternoon and I only have 10 minutes.
Wow.
She said, you can't say anything in 10 minutes. How can I talk about our financials, our team credentials, our patent pending? And I said, Kathleen, you don't have 10 minutes. You have 60 seconds. Here is the 60-second opening we came up with, Ash, that not only helped her win millions in funding, she was Business Week's most promising social entrepreneur of that year. You ready? 60-second opening?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you know there are 1.8 billion vaccinations given every year? Did you know up to a third of them are given with reused needles?
Okay.
Did you know we're spreading and perpetuating the very diseases we're trying to prevent? Imagine if there were a painless one-use needle for a fraction of the current cost. You don't have to imagine it. We're doing it, and she's off and running. Are your eyebrows up, Ash?
Wow. What an amazing pitch. What an amazing pitch. Just 4 sentences.
And now let's do it for your listeners and viewers. Think about, you're going to be making a request or recommendation, whether you're going to be walking into your boss, whether you're going to be wanting your budget approved, whether you're going to be asking for funding for a cause. Don't tell people what it's about. That's infobesity. And they'll be sitting there with their arms crossed thinking that this is too big of a risk or it's not in their budget. The answer will be no. Instead, ask 3 did you know questions. Did you know this and this? What are startling statistics about the problem you're solving, about the issue you're addressing? And if you're thinking, where do I find these startling statistics? In search, just put what are startling statistics about this industry, about this problem, about this idea. Up are going to come things even you don't know. And if you don't know it, that means your listeners don't know it. Quickest way to get skeptical people's attention is now they're smarter than they were 20 seconds ago. So amazing. First step, 3 did you know questions.
Right.
Second
amazing.
Step. Oh boy. And here's the whole thing. It will transform it. It will give people a competitive edge, Ash. So second step, the word imagine. Because when we say imagine, people are no longer preoccupied. They're picturing your idea. They are seeing what you're saying. Now link it to 3 attributes of what it is you're proposing. So go back to Kathleen Callender of the PharmaJet. So what are her decision makers thinking? Well, they're thinking about reused needles. We made it one use. They're thinking about painful inoculations. We made it painless. And of course, as you know, most decision makers think about money. So we made it a fraction of the current cost.
Incredible. In
a world of infobesity, we distilled into one succinct sentence. Who wouldn't want that? That's your goal.
Correct.
Distill 3 attributes. Imagine this, this, and your decision makers are thinking, sounds good. And then third step, you don't have to imagine it. We're doing it. Amazing. Now come in with your precedents and your evidence to show this isn't speculative. This is a done deal. You and your team can deliver it. By the way, Ash, do you know how Kathleen Callender used to introduce PharmaJet? Ready? It's a medical delivery device for subcutaneous inoculations. It's a what? Look at my eyebrows. Same thing. Lost him at hello, have him at hello. That's the power of that technique.
Wow. Wow. Have you ever considered a second career in communication when everything has to be said in 30 seconds or even 10 seconds on a new devices now? You'd be an absolute winner in that. But
that's actually my next book. It's called, are you ready for the title of my next book, Ash?
Yep. Yes, I am.
Talking on eggshells.
Wow.
Talking on eggshells. Aren't we all talking on eggshells these days?
Wonderful. I'm going to look forward to that book then. Wonderful. So, Sam, now I'm going to move to your role or your experience as a coach. I've got a few questions to ask you as a coach. And given the kind of conversation we have had in the last 10 odd minutes, I'm sure you'll have lots of amazing stories. So let me start by asking you, how has your background supported your coaching philosophy, your style, and your values?
I just love your questions, Ash.
Mm-hmm.
I'll always be grateful to my dad. I grew up in a very small town, more horses than people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was graduating, I was selected valedictorian to give the commencement speech. Big deal, small town.
Yeah.
So I gave my little bird leaving the nest speech and to my dad. And I asked him what he thought. And he gave me an honest answer. And he said, "It's an okay talk. You just haven't said anything I haven't heard before." And he said, "Sam, if we're going to ask people for their valuable time and mind, it is our responsibility to say something original." And I said, "Dad, there's nothing new under the sun." Guess what he said? "Sure there is. Do you know what the definition of original is? People haven't heard it before." So see, when I work with people as a coach, it's like, how can we come up with a name for a book that they haven't heard before, like Tung Fu or Talking on Eggshells? How can we call our business something that gets people's eyebrows up?
Right.
How can we, in 30 to 60 seconds, describe our products or our services or our business in a way that instead of people thinking, "Heard that one before," they're going, "Tell me more."
Absolutely.
So that's when I help people in my coaching. Our goal is to come up with something original that gives them a competitive edge.
And would you have an interesting story to share on this one?
Ash, is that a rhetorical question?
No. I'm sure you'd have many stories about all my questions.
Okay, so here we go. Here's a woman named Denise Brousseau. Now, I'm going to ask your listeners to juxtapose this. Put a vertical line down the center. Denise is over on the left. Now, she's a leader. She started Women for Forum for Women Entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. So this is a very successful company. She had never been paid to speak because, see, over on the left, she's an individual. And she speaks for free and she blogs. However, it was just perceived as an outcome of her being a nonprofit leader. So you can't sell that or scale that, right? When you're an individual, you're a celebrity brand, you got to be there or else you're not making money, right? So move over to the right, put umbrella brand. I believe if we want to sell our business or scale our business, then we go from being an individual to being an umbrella brand. So do an umbrella on your right. Look for the river that runs through your work. And the river that ran through her work, what she had been doing for years, is she created thought leaders. So guess what we called her business, Ash? The Thought Leadership Lab.
Okay.
Boom. She's now a founder and a CEO, and under the umbrella, see it as an organizational chart. So she can still write, she can still speak for a fee, as opposed. She can have a YouTube channel. She can have an online course. She can even have her philanthropy that gives her form and function and freedom and flexibility, all on brand. She can bring in a succession plan if she wants. 10 years from now, she can decide to do something else. She can sell that business. Now she has business equity because she has a business entity.
How wonderful. How wonderful. My next question to you is that, all of us have had people who have influenced us in our lives. My question to you is, how have you been shaped by people in your life? And how are they influencing you as a coach today?
Once again, I love your questions, Ash.
Thank you.
I had the privilege of being in the tennis industry. I worked for Rod Laver.
Okay.
Rod Laver from Australia, won the Grand Slam of tennis twice.
Very good tennis player. I've seen him play.
Where did you see him play, Ash?
At Wimbledon. You
saw him at Wimbledon. What a memory. Do you remember who he played?
No, I don't. It was many years ago.
Yep. And he has a big left arm, right? That's twice the size of his right arm. Well, you would be happy to know that Rod Laver Rocket is a gentleman. That in addition to being one of the greatest tennis players that ever played the game, he is a gentleman on and off the court. And I had an opportunity. We used to put on tennis camps, national tennis camps on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. And so we had a very intense few weeks hosting these camps. I was helping to run the pro shop in these camps. And when it was over, Rocket asked if I'd like to hit a bit, kind of to reward me for my hard work. Now, Ash, are you a tennis player?
I used to be. I'm now 66, so not playing that much, but I'm a golfer.
Okay, you're a golfer. Well, on Hilton Head Island, pretty good golf on Hilton Head Island, right? So now if Rocket asked you to hit a little bit, what would be your answer?
You'd say yes, but...
Yes, you would say yes.
Awesome, absolutely. I agree.
That's right. So I said yes. And now Rocket's making me work for it. He's running me to the right. He's running me to the back. He's, back, forth, so forth. Finally, he hits up a pretty weak lob. If I just come and hit this overhead, I am going to take a point off Rocket. In my eagerness, I commit the cardinal sin of overheads. Instead of keeping my eye on the ball, I looked where I was going to hit the ball. Ash, I didn't hit the ball. I missed the ball. It was so humiliating. And I lost it a little bit. I said, what a stupid mistake. I know better than that. I should have kept my eyes on that ball. Now, Rocket is known for sportsmanship. So he kind of beckoned me over to the net. And here's what he said. Are you ready? Sam, champions never use the word should. The second they make a mistake, they're already thinking about how to get it back and do it right.
Correct.
That's right. So I tell you, Ash, one of the things with my clients and in my programs and in like my Tung Fu book, etc., is that the second something goes wrong, we do not use the word, oh, I should have been more careful. You should have called if you were going to be late. You should have talked with our IT department, because the word should usually pertains to the past. It serves no good purpose. Instead, put the word should on the left. Over on the right, put next time, from now on, in the future. Because now we're being a coach instead of a critic. We shape behavior instead of shame it. People learn from mistakes instead of lose face over mistakes. And my dad used to say, we can't motivate people to do better by making them feel bad. And the word should makes people feel bad, and it doesn't coach them how to do it better.
Absolutely. Well said. What a great response. Thank you. So, Sam, now I'm going to move to your books. I see a couple of them behind you. I see Tung Fu and I see one other one, which is, I think, Pops. And some days not a day in the week. This one is
Pop.
Okay, and Tung Fu.
Yeah. And got your attention.
You certainly have in my conversation. You got my attention, and there's Tung Fu, you said. So tell me a little bit about your books and what motivates you to write.
Of course, you're the author of 9 books, Ash?
8.
Okay.
Working on my
8 with 9 coming up, right? Okay. Here's once again a story. You and I both love stories. They really are the way to be intriguing instead of infobesity, aren't they? So here's the story behind Tung Fu. Is that the very first year of the Maui Writers Conference, I'm running around to make sure everything's on time. And I pop into a session with an agent called Michael Larson. And Michael is talking about titles, and that with nonfiction books, sometimes he'll represent an author just on a great title because he knows we can build a book around it, right?
Right.
Someone in the audience said, well, what's an example of a great title? And he said, Tung Fu is the best title I've heard in 10 years. Ash, I went out and I plopped down in a chair because that was my workshop. That was my title. However, I was a single mom. I was jumping on planes and giving keynotes. I didn't have time to write. And I had an epiphany. And my epiphany was, the more I speak, the more I will speak. If I want to be a visionary on behalf of my impact and career, I will set paid speaking aside and invest a few months in a quality book because it will drive my career more than anything else I can do.
Correct.
And I tell you, Ash, I hope if your listeners are thinking about writing a book, they will understand that it is part of their legacy and contribution. And if they do a quality job, those books will be out in the world making a difference for people long after they're gone. It will scale their impact in a way very few things can.
Well said. And I'm going to ask all my viewers and listeners to go and check out Sam Horn's books on Amazon. I'm going to check them out. I'll order the books, but do check them out. I think it's, based on this conversation, I'm sure you can get a sense of how well she writes because she communicates so beautifully. And Sam, my last question to you now, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your incredible experience, your amazing journey, what would you say are 3 lessons you want our viewers and listeners to take away from our conversation?
I tell you keep hitting these questions out of the park, Ash. Okay, I believe in quotes, partially because of what my dad said, is that we have a responsibility to be original, intriguing, and interesting, so we earn people's interest. So here's one quote, one of my favorites. Catherine Graham of the Washington Post said, "To do what you love and feel that it matters, how could anything be more fun?" And Ash, I know this is true for you. The only thing that is better than doing what we love and feeling that it matters is doing it with people we enjoy and respect, right? So I really believe in taking responsibility for creating a career that is meaningful, that is making a difference, for doing it with people we enjoy and respect. And not only is it fun, it makes every single day. I bet you're familiar with the Japanese word ikigai.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ikigai, of course, is a reason to wake up in the morning.
Correct.
It is something to look forward to. And if we create a career that's meaningful, making a difference with people we respect, that is ikigai.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Fantastic. And on that note, Sam, and your wonderful quotation, what you just said, take responsibility for our life and our career. I just loved so many different examples you gave me. I loved your quote, "Ink it when you think it." I think that's a very powerful message, and I'm sure my viewers and listeners will be making a note of this. I love the way you drew the line in the center of the page and asked me to write infobasity on one side and intrigue on the other. And I think suddenly the boxes seem to fall, all the thoughts seem to fall into place. How do I move my thoughts from infobasity to intrigue? I'm looking forward to your book, Talking on Eggshells, if I have the title correct. Thank you for talking to me about the Intrigue Agency. Thank you for talking to me about your thoughts on coaching. And I'm amazed at how much credit you give to your father. I was very, very close to my father as well. So I was amazed at how much credit you give to him for some of the things that shaped you. Thank you again for talking to me about your books and for this entire conversation. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Ash. By the way, you just modeled why we take notes. Look at how you were able to imprint what was said and repeat it and reinforce it so that people are much more likely to remember it and act on it. So what a model of jotting those thoughts when they're hot and using it so we don't lose it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.